So I make a good living in trucking. If you're new to the channel, I am a Class A regional food service delivery driver. I've been in the trucking industry nearly 7 years. I've been with this company specifically for a little over 6 years. And picking up a skilled trade in trucking has been a blessing for me. And I would definitely recommend it for anybody that may not necessarily want to go the college route. You want to get into a good skilled trade, very well-paying skilled trade. If you choose the right job, you get your credentials, endorsements, things of that nature. Like with any job, with any industry you get into, there's going to be pros and cons. But for me, and I know a lot of other truck drivers can attest to the same thing, it's worked out pretty well. I would say probably 90% of the people who watch my channel are probably in the trucking industry. And I feel like a lot of truck drivers may not necessarily be thinking about saving, investing, and those sorts of things that can, grow your wealth, which is why I like to talk about it on my channel, because some of these guys may not hear it anywhere else. I don't know how much of a variety of content that you guys watch or listen to. Hopefully you listen to some type of content around finances, because I think it's important. I always think about the time where I had this guy come talk to me at the hotel that I do my layovers at. That was a gentleman, an older gentleman who I spoke with. This was last year sometime. He looked like he was probably in his late 60s, may even been 70. He was an older gentleman, flatbed truck driver, over-the-road driver. And we were just having a conversation, talking about trucking. And he started telling me about how he didn't have any money and how he had to call his boss and ask his boss to give him an advance on his paycheck because he didn't have enough money to buy food while he was out on the road, and he couldn't wait to payday. And I just started thinking to myself, man, listening to somebody that age, and this person been in the trucking industry for a long time, it just really makes you think. And for me, I just look at that and I'm like, man, I don't want to be in that situation when I get that age. And I hear a lot of examples like that, not just in the trucking in the trucking industry, but just in general, right? I hear a lot of stories like that where, people just didn't save or didn't put any money away for retirement. And I understand things come up, right? Some people may have, illnesses that come up to where you have to tap into your retirement. Maybe you have, some house repairs that need to be done. It could be anything where you have to dig into your savings or take out large sums of money for unexpected expenses. I get it. These things happen, which is why I always preach on my channel about saving and putting money away, because you just never know what type of, financial situations that could arise that can really, set you back, right? And so I get it. I understand these things happen. But it's a good idea that if you have a job, if your company does a company match for a 401k, that you contribute. At least contribute up to the company match, whatever that is, 3%, 4%. Don't leave that money on the table. That's free money. I would also recommend a separate brokerage account or something in addition to your 401k. Some of you may have pensions. That's great. But try to put your money in some type of investment vehicles that can grow your wealth. Not a traditional savings account where you're getting 0.1% interest. At least stick it in a high yield savings account. I think mine's, the last time I checked, was a little over 3.5%. The Fed is talking about lowering interest rates potentially next month. So if that happens, the interest rate will be lower. You may have some banks out there or some type of financial institution, that have maybe a 4% interest rate, or a little higher. Could be some CDs out there with a 4% interest rate. Just check the terms on those. But I think, if you can find something along those lines to where you can stick your money in to get a little bit better return on your money, I would advise doing that. But it's a good feeling, man. I know, anytime I talk about money on the channel, oftentimes I'll get a comment where somebody say money isn't everything. And I agree with that. However, when I hear that, a quote from Zig Ziglar comes to mind where he says, money isn't everything, but it's right up there with oxygen. Meaning money is important, right? Say what you want to say. It isn't everything. You can't leave here with it. Whatever, right? You hear it all. At the end of the day, I think it's hard to disagree with this, but money makes life easier if you have money and you're disciplined with money, right? If you're a good steward with your finances, I would much rather have money than not have money, right? Of course, we don't know when it's going to be our last day here, but who's to say you won't live until you're in your 80s or beyond, right? You don't know. So for me, I would much rather save money, put money away, and have it than to reach that age and not have it, because the uncertainty of not knowing whether or not I was going to be here to enjoy it, right? That's just my mindset. I know everybody's different. And to each his own. Do your own thing. But having money for emergencies makes it a lot easier to sleep at night. It relieves a lot of stress when you know you have money. It relieves a lot of anxiety when you know you're not living paycheck to paycheck. So for me, I just want to have economic security. I read a stat recently that stated 2 out of 3 Americans don't have enough savings to cover a week's worth of expenses without receiving a paycheck. You got to put money away, man. You got to be disciplined. And that's the main ingredient to any type of success, whether it's financial success, whether it's relationship success, whether it's your physical success, meaning working out, transforming your body, or is getting a better handle on your money and your finances, saving, investing, paying off debt, not accumulating unnecessary debt, digging a deeper hole for yourself, mentally, right? Reading, consuming personal development material, just growth, right? Becoming a better version of yourself. All of these things takes discipline. Without discipline, there's no way you can accomplish these goals. There's no way you can achieve greatness in those areas without discipline. You can be motivated, you can be inspired, you can be all of those things, but if you're not disciplined, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. So get disciplined around saving and investing. If you don't know where to start, you're on the right platform if you're watching this video. Just do your research. It's a lot of free information online around saving, around investing, For me personally, I love the stock market. If you've been following the channel, you guys know that. The Vanguard S&P 500 ETF is one of my favorite assets to invest in. Put your money to work, man. Making money in your sleep is one of the best feelings. And the earlier you start, the better. So that's why I recommend, if you're young, if you're in your early 20s, late teens, you can start investing earlier and retire a lot sooner. By the time you get my age, you'll be set and you don't have to invest as much money because you have time on your side. Time flies. And here's the other thing. This is why you don't want to have a lot of debt as you get older. As you get older, you need to be paying off as much debt as possible. Having little to no debt means you don't have a lot of financial obligations to take care of, which means you may not necessarily need a ton of money to retire. So keep that in mind when you think about investing. I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.